No Cap Real Talk. You hear us, we reflect you. We talk controversial topics. We discuss equity, inclusion, mental health, feminism, LGBTQIA, and everything beyond and in between. Get involved. Get to the real talk. No cap.
I'm Rory-Ann Johnson, the Director of Counseling Services here at Owens Community College. We are talking about Black issues and mental wellness in honor of Black History Month. Thank you again for tuning in, and I want to take a moment to thank my production team, Maggie. She's going to do a great job. I'm here with Meijin Eugene. Thank you for being present today.
My pleasure.
Let's dive in. Let's not waste any time. What is on your mind as we think about mental wellness and Black issues?
What comes to me over and over is the need for empowerment in our communities and the need to create our own story, because we're bouncing off of, playing off of, operating inside of the story that somebody made up for us. If we're going to be offended by anything, it should be that.
Yes, the totality of that, right? The weight, the sheer weight of that on our community. I think it's important to back up just a little bit and let's define Black issues.
Yes.
And I want to define Blackness, what it is to be Black. And again, this is from my perspective. Can't speak for everybody in the community. But what it means to be Black to me is it's a culture. It is a culture that was stripped away from us when we came here as slaves. And then we had to really search and find and pick up tiny little pieces and bits of what was left over to cultivate Blackness for ourselves. We were told we were Black. We didn't know that. That's not something we were born knowing. It was something we were told. Yet, as a community, we have picked that up and we have turned it into something that helps us to feel empowered. And so I think it's important to define that. And let me just sidebar it and say, if you have a definition for Blackness, please send it along to counselingservices@owens.edu, and we will shout it out and air it on our next podcast. So please do that. Again, send your definitions of Blackness to counselingservices@owens.edu, and you can put OCCR, Outcast Radio, as the subject line, and we will shout you out at our next podcast. So coming back, what are your thoughts on the definition of Blackness, and what do you add to that?
I want to define what it is for me, and I don't want to be like anybody else. I think that's just a part of our human makeup. You know what I mean? We are made to be unique. So as I think about, defining Blackness, I'm like, I define mine, you define yours, right? That way, no one can put us in a box.
Yes.
Because we're in our own space.
Beautiful.
Together,
Absolutely. And just highlighting the fact that my Blackness and how I define it does not have to impede or impart on your Blackness and how you define it. It is not a competition out here.
Yes. I'm not American, right? I was born in Haiti. And even when I came to America, I was still in Haiti inside of my house. And so I have had to dig into Black culture, Black American culture, because I want to understand, where do I live in this country? What has happened here,
Right.
And I want to understand the Black people in my American community. And there is always alignment, but there's alignment because I define mine. There is only alignment, by the way, because, in our culture, like I was sharing a few weeks ago, how, in high school, the Black girls were like, you want to be white, or you think you're white. And I'm looking at my brown skin like, I don't understand how that's confusing to anyone. But, and I'm not American, right? And I'm just only a few years in the U.S. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And I wasn't old enough when I lived in Haiti, I think, to really understand. Besides, I don't even remember my childhood, which is another mental health story. But I just never even heard of this concept or never thought too deeply about racism. But constantly I'm experiencing it from Black women.
Right.
And this is what I'm talking about creating our own story. Like, stop focusing on the story, like you talked about, that's been created for us, because we want to come to the table. We want to come to the table with our Blackness, right? Defined individually, because that's where the power is, right?
Yes.
It's from the inside. You can't touch me because you don't even know about this, because I made it up, okay?
Facts on facts.
You don't even know the textbook and all of the details, right? Because it's mine. It's mine and you can't see it. So don't tell me. I'm gonna tell you. So that starts inside of us, and then the next step is in the community. Like, how do you engage with other Black people? Do you rise to stupidity of telling someone anything, right? Telling someone, this is gonna really rock a lot of worlds right here. But I have to say, if we're gonna do this, let's just do it.
Dive in.
This whole N-word situation, listen, again, starting from inside of you. For example, do you really want to make a song? Because a point of making a song, right, is that you'd like people to sing your song. I mean, I never made a song, but if I did, I'm going with, I want people singing my song. That is a good thing. That is success. Everybody wants to sing my song. And I put the N-word in my song. And then I get offended by who wants to sing along to that part.
Yeah.
No, we're going to become sick of ourselves.
Yeah.
Speaking of mental health, it's not a healthy practice if we operate. And that is a story that we made, right? That the community, the Black society created this story for us about, oh, we now own the N. Why do you even want, I don't even want anything to do with the N-word, because you never made it up in the first place.
Right.
And I want to say an expletive right here, because you never made up the N-word and now you want to own it. Okay, I get it, right? There are words I've taken back, right, in regards to women, and I own them.
Yes, yes.
But I don't outlaw who can say it. Why? Because it's impossible. Why play a game you are always going to lose?
So let's play devil's advocate to that N-word.
Yes,
Let's attach
yes.
it to mental health. Let's attach it to the microaggressions we as people of color experience daily in every environment we occupy. But the N-word specifically. There is a gentleman who's on this campus. I will not say his name. I don't have permission to say his name. Mm-hmm. However, he routinely says, although his skin is very melanated, he says, I am not Black.
Yes.
And I say, yes, bring that discussion to the table. We need to hear it. Let's then bridge that gap and say the N-word. You being from Haiti, I want to wrap that up in American culture, what it means as American Black people here on this continent. What has that word historically meant? And here it is. We came off slave ships and we landed in a place that our people really already were. We know Christopher Columbus did not discover this continent.
Oh, do we?
Do we want to dive that deep? Not today. That's another time. But what we do know is that everything that was universally ours in Africa was stripped and taken away from us. And all we had left is what was given to us. Mm-hmm. So you gave me this scrap to put on my back. You gave me these scraps to put on my feet. You gave me these scraps to feed my family, and then separated us and dispersed us. And all I have left is this. And so I'm going to take this and I'm going to build upon it, and I'm going to empower me, and I'm going to empower the people I touch and the people I see and the people I love. And I think there's beauty in that, to take a word. Yes, this word was given to us, and no, it was not given to us in a positive way. No, it did not mean you are beautiful and successful and extravagant as we were,
right.
as we are.
As we are.
As we are. And we've taken that word and turned it into something meaningful. We've turned it into camaraderie among our melanated people. And not everybody has to agree. But what we do know is when that word is used by other cultures, it is at times passively aggressively used.
Right.
And it is used to degrade, or it is used to appropriate and assimilate in negative ways, right? And so that's the American attachment to the N-word, I think. And again, chime in, people. We want to hear your voices on this topic.
So much, because this needs to be a conversation that everyone tunes into and chimes into, speaks on, because the truth is inevitable. If we speak the truth from our mouths, right, we will find a common truth there, right?
Absolutely.
And I totally see what you're saying, and that's the beautiful part. But look what's happening to us. Do you know, it's like, this is why we need to have this conversation. That beauty has gotten lost. That beauty has turned into an endless stream of PTSD.
Yes.
That beauty has locked us into a war, a state of I am in a war zone. And anytime I hear that word and it's coming from the wrong color and, oh, are you half black? Oh, you're full black, but you don't look it. Oh, but you know, it's just like, it's like if it doesn't work, it's not working. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
So this is the invitation I think my soul is wanting to give and receive when I'm like, wait a second. How do we turn this back into a healthy practice?
Both for mental wellness, but also physical wellness. And I think the part that's remissed, where our culture remisses in this, is that you can't not be triggered by such a negative word. You can't hear that word and not think of the movie Amistad, because that's where, when I hear that N-word come from anyone, my brain literally goes to that movie Amistad, where there was just almost like a visceral depiction of what happened to our people coming over on slave ships. And we've never been able to really see it. There's no pictures taken of what we experienced, what our ancestors experienced. And that still is ingrained in our DNA. That trauma is what we would consider intergenerational trauma. When people say, have you had trauma? And most of our people will be like, no. But if I ask that question in a different way, I will hear the trauma. I will hear it through and through every word they speak.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, is trauma. This is about trauma when we talk about triggers, and that is what's going on today, right? This generation, if we can heal and correct, so to speak, the triggers, it will make a big deal for the next generation, right? Because we are shifting things. So when it comes to trauma, the number one thing is a safe space. The number one go-to, you know, if you want to heal and turn around this trauma, is a safe space. And two, the core of trauma recovery would be the belief system that you're operating on. So currently, it's like, for many of us, our belief system is, I am oppressed. I am oppressed. They don't want me here, right? They're against me at every turn. They want to use my own words against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we cannot, you and I know, we cannot recover from trauma biologically, right? Mentally, emotionally. It's impossible if we continue to operate from the same belief system.
Yes.
Now, we keep talking about intergenerational trauma. It's so real. It's so true. It sucks, right? Yet, the way I feel personally, I'm like, no thanks. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
take your trauma triggers and shove them where the sun don't shine, because, like, I don't want them.
Absolutely.
You
And
know,
as a mental health clinician in this profession, working with my people of color, and I have not been in this field a long time. I've been in the mental health field, but licensed as a therapist, I've got 6 years under my belt. But here's what I've discovered in that time, in that very short, very toddler-esque time of, mental health wellness. I've discovered that my people need something different. So when we talk about coping skills that are written in books by Caucasian men, for Caucasian men, because it was mainly Caucasian men seeking mental health services, those coping skills are not the same. What I have discovered is that when we talk about intergenerational trauma or any trauma, I know that my people need something different. And then if we branch that out, I can very well speak to the fact that every individual in my therapy office needs something different.
Right.
However, when I work with my people, I find that they need something universally different. So there's a need to deepen the coping skills and mechanisms that I use with people of color in my therapy sessions. So we're not talking, this intervention straight out of like an IFS, DBT, CBT workbook. Do those things work? Of course they work. I've discovered that my people need more, and it's more about a connection, and it's more about a therapeutic rapport, and it's more about a relationship. And when those things are absent in the session for anyone, it doesn't work, and you don't see progress. So addressing those triggers and uprooting those belief systems that you talk about, it is such an orchestra. It is an orchestra of therapy to do.
Yes, and you're touching on, it's like, now I want to be so clear to make this point. It's not about, we just need to write a new story and ignore whatever, has happened. Yeah, because you do need to uproot something. You need to identify and, be so intentional. What am I working with here? What are my own personal triggers? Because everyone's not, even if the general trigger might be a word or an action, what are my personal triggers? Because I do think, I feel very strongly that we must be sometimes identifying with someone else's triggers, just because this is such a popularized topic, as it should be, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I don't like that either. It's like, well, I don't actually have a problem with, I don't actually have a problem with that, but my people have a problem with it. Yeah. So I have a problem, and so, again, that individualization, which is what you're talking about, people need their own thing. They need what they need, right? You can't just write it in a book, but the common thread that you just pointed out is connection.
Yes.
Connection. And yeah, for years and years, forever years, except for now, it's been a thing. You go sit with a therapist and they're not your friend and they don't know you and they will not relate to you. And this is a good thing to talk about, because I think mental health is not something, it's not a curse word. You know what I mean? Right. It's not a bad thing. It's something we all started off with.
Yeah, if we go back to our roots, like I'm talking Africa, back to our roots. We all have it,
yeah.
We did different thing. Like, for example, even if I talk about EMDR, which is the bilateral stimulation, and that's how we resolve trauma, we did this in Africa. It was called body drumming. And so if you think about that and say, what were we doing, dancing around fires and like drumming on our bodies and drumming on drums that we built with our hands? We are a spectacular people. We were already doing this. Francine Shapiro came and said, look what I've discovered. No, ma'am. Right. No, ma'am. Our people were already doing this, and it was stripped from us. Or if you think about quote unquote Negro spirituals. Why do you think it's called spirituals? Because we were so connected to our higher power, so connected to our higher power, and then came here and this is a very soft topic. Please chime in if you're listening. counseling services at owens.edu. I want your feedback.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated with religion to a very large extent.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated with Christianity, and we've been indoctrinated with what the Bible tells us, although this is a book that has been edited umpteen times by umpteen people to fit their agenda.
Yeah, not a secret. It always fascinates me. Like, guys, that's not a secret. Nobody's blowing your mind by telling you this.
Right.
This is Googleable and library lookupable. So since it's not a secret, why are we doing this? Why are we allowing this to happen to us? And you know what? On the outside, we may have been stripped, but no one can strip you from or anything from you. No one
Innately.
can strip you down. Yes, innately. You are the power.
Yes, everyone. This is,
Yeah.
and that's not a message just for Black people. That is a
No.
message for each and every one of you out there. You are your own power. As long
And your
as
own
you,
disempowerment.
yes, as long as you step into that knowledge,
Yes.
step into that awareness, step into that self-fulfillment of who it is that you want to be. Everyone is capable of it.
Yes, self-fulfillment, right? So what we can so easily do and what we are trained to do, we're trained to do it culturally, we're trained to do it. I mean, there's a culture everywhere you go. There's a culture inside of your home. There's a culture inside of your school. There's a culture inside of each classroom. There's a culture inside of the grocery store, on the street that you're driving on, And the purpose is to control us, right? As an educator, I know a skilled and really talented teacher does not default to this idea that she needs to control her class and control her students. A skilled and talented teacher understands, even if you've never verbalized it, they operate from the standpoint that humans are not here to be controlled. The minute you allow someone to control you, you allow yourself to be dumbed down. You allow yourself to be stripped. I mean, when we look at people who have survived slavery, that's where you want to look. If you want to look at how to get it, right?
Yes.
Look at those who have survived slavery, survived the Holocaust. Look at Nelson Mandela. What happened there to keep them at their highest space, to keep the space where they are most themselves intact? It's seemingly impossible. How the heck do I endure all of this? Yet my inner space, my inner deliciousness, my essence, no one can touch it, right? It's only a misconception that someone has attacked you at your core. It is impossible. What happens is, I've had to explain this to myself for my own personal well-being and sanity, right? What happened is somebody convinced me that they did something to me, that they did some damage, but it's not possible. You can't touch me. And it does take a mind shift, and it takes a lot of work sometimes to shift that mind. And so go get a therapist, right? Who operates from a healthy standpoint, because unfortunately, yes, there aren't many, right? There aren't many, but how important it is to see that, nothing has happened to us, right? Therefore, what's happening on the outside, we can take back control of this narrative.
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful,
culture.
that's a beautiful segue into just the mental health space of finding a therapist and the stigma among our people, the African American community, the Black community, the stigma that is still so strong around mental health. Why are African Americans not seeking mental health services? So I will speak personally from my private practice, where the amount of African Americans I have in therapy is about 50%. 50% of my clients are African American in my private practice. Here on campus, I will tell you that number is way low. There might be 10% of the African American population here on campus that are seeking mental health services. And my baby project, my important, very, very important project is to find out why. And one of the things that I came up with is maybe because they didn't see clinicians that look like them, that walk like them, that talk like them, that relate like them. And so it was a really big to-do for me to get a diverse clinical team here in our counseling center, so that no matter who you are, if you walk into the counseling center, there is someone there for you that you'll be like, okay, I relate. We will relate. We have the same background. I will quote another one of my colleagues in the profession. I will just say her name is Jane Snow. So when she listens to this, she will know who she is, and she will know that I am quoting her directly. And she and I have had this idea that we consider ourselves hood adjacent.
I love it.
We consider ourselves hood adjacent because we have come from very, very humble, I mean extremely humble beginnings, and somehow have like climbed that mountain carrying how many ever thousands of pounds of whatever was trying to hold us back. And we've both made it to this professional space in our careers and in our lives. But you don't lose that. You don't lose that hood quality. And no matter who you are, you relate to that. So when someone enters the counseling center and they see me wearing my Timberland boots or my Air Force Ones, they're like, oh, okay, she's gonna get me. Like I think she's gonna get me. And even then, I tell my people, all people that walk into the counseling center, I might not be a good fit. And if I'm not a good fit, break up with me promptly, because it is about that relationship. And if it's not clicking, it's not clicking. And I want to help you get to the place and space where you click with your therapist so that progress can be made. Yes. I am not everybody's therapist. I can be your therapist. It is work that I love to do, but I'm not for everyone. And so another big thing here on campus is erasing that stigma, not only for the entire campus, but especially for people of color on campus, bridging that gap to say, just come talk to someone. You know, calling it the counseling center, I think, is slightly detrimental. I think if we listed it as the mental wellness center, right? Like, just work on your mental wellness. It doesn't have to be so clinical. I really don't care what they call whatever you're dealing with. I work with the symptoms. We are going to address the symptoms. Are you not sleeping at night? We will address that. Are you having a hard time focusing? We will address that. I don't care if we call it rainbow and unicorn farts. It doesn't matter what they call it.
It is, yeah.
It needs to be relational, interrelational, interpersonal. It needs to be deep, and it needs to be connecting. And the stigma around all of that needs to go bye-bye. Like, we are so done with the stigma around mental health and being hidden and don't talk about it.
It's a story. It's a story that's been given to us because, I mean, it makes sense. I would imagine when you are disempowered, then one of your priorities is to look powerful. And then, you know, well, if I'm powerful, then I don't need all this help. If you value something, then you will go out of your way. It's like fashion, okay? If you value your look, right? Oh, but you don't have to need a new boot, right?
Right.
You don't have to need a new pair of glasses or heels or, you know, an accessory. You are all about it, right? You nurture that space because you love it. Yes. You love to look the way you look. And if you love to be who you are, and if you don't even know who you are, but would love to be who you are, it's like, that's what it's about. But it's another story. You know, these stories that oppress us, they don't all come from the white community.
Right. They come from within.
They come from within, but they all, well, we can nurture them from within, right? But that's where we start to agree to them and align with them, or agree with them and align with them. But they also come from other outside spaces, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, that's what the counseling center does. Helps you to say, well, are you sure that you're powerless? Look inside. Look inside. You will know. You will know. You know what you are.
Absolutely. And to that effect, again, we are working very hard on campus to erase stigma around mental wellness, mental health, and the challenges that we face emotionally and otherwise. That's what we're looking to do at the Counseling Center. Again, go to our website. We have a diverse group of ladies on our staff there, so that if you think there's no one that looks like you, just come on by.
Feels like you.
Yeah.
Because RJ feels like me, even though I don't even know how to buy a pair of Timbs. Quite frankly, I'm not sure where I would go for that.
I got the hookup. I got a plug for that.
But I feel her. You know what I mean? Like, they might not look like you. They might look like you. They might feel like you. They might not look like you, but feel like you, you know. But yes.
So,
and you're saying we want to help shift the stigma, erase the stigma. It can't happen without you, the people. It can't happen. So even if it is, like, I wish I could be back on a college campus at this time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as a student, because you showing up to a space like this, even if you feel well, means that you are a part of erasing a stigma that does shape your world that you live in, that you will put children into, and that they will inherit.
Absolutely. So beautifully spoken. Thank you.
Thank you. You inspire me.
You inspire me. But we could go back and forth on that nonstop. I want to thank you for being here with me today, Meijin. Again, I want to thank my production team, Maggie. All thoughts, all feedback, please.
Yes.
Send to counselingservices@owens.edu with OCCR, Outcast Radio, in the subject line. We want to shout you out. We want to hear your thoughts on this. We want you to chime in and tune in and listen and be a part of this discussion. And if you want to come in and be a part of our next broadcast, again, counseling services at owens.edu. This is for the people. This is for you. I am Royanne Johnson. I am the Director of Counseling Services here at Owens Community College. Thank you for listening in with No Cap, Real Talk, and we will see you next time.
This has been No Cap, Real Talk.